Okay, first of all, I met Scott Peterson November 20th, 2002.
Directly to the killer, who may be in this room.
I'm going to turn now to that new charge for the so-called doomsday mom, Lori Vallow, already charged in the killing of her two children. She is now being indicted for conspiracy to commit murder.
A violation of Penal Code Section 187 Prene, murder in the first degree. How do you plead?
Guilty.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to this week's episode of True Crime Headlines. I'm your host, Lauren, and this is week 36 of 2021. And before we get into it, I just want to remind you guys that this is a brand new show, and if you'd like to help us out, please consider joining our Patreon at patreon.com/Palmahawk Media. That's PALAMAHAWK media.com. On Patreon, you will not only receive early and ad-free episodes of True Crime Headlines, but you'll also get a ton of extra content from our sister show, Paradise After Dark podcast. We have a spin-off show called Analyze This. We have an off-topic and uncut show that we do. It's just totally worth it, I think. But anyway, let's dive into it, shall we? First story of this week obviously is about Lori Vallow. Vallow family reported to Arizona DCS twice in 2019. The 12 News I-team uncovered in police reports that a school employee reported the Vallow family to DCS in February of 2019, but the agency did not open an investigation. In a case that has gripped the nation, new details reveal reports to the Arizona Department of Children's Safety were never investigated prior to the deaths of J.J. Vallow and Tylee Ryan. Lori Vallow Daybell and her husband, Chad Daybell, are both accused of killing Lori's children, J.J. and Tylee, who used to live in the valley but disappeared in September of 2019. Their bodies were found buried in Chad Daybell's Idaho backyard in June of 2020. Court records show the marriage between Lori Vallow Daybell and her former husband, Charles Vallow, grew rocky by the end of 2018. At the end of January of 2019, Charles Vallow called Gilbert police after he returned home from a business trip and told officers that he thought Lori's religious beliefs turned radical and that he feared for his own life and their children. Emails released by the Chandler Police Department indicate that Charles Vallow shared his concerns with the staff at Life Academy in Gilbert, where J.J. Vallow attended school, and noted that he had to file an order of protection against his wife. In February of 2019, emails show the school told police they reported to Child Services to ensure we were doing our due diligence to protect JJ. Other emails between Chandler Police and the FBI in December of 2019 indicate DCS had another report about the family. DCS confirms it received 2 communications about the Vallow family in 2019, but claims that neither resulted in an investigation because there was no showing of abuse or neglect. An attorney for DCS and a spokesperson declined to tell the I-team how the agency came to these conclusions and refused to release any records requested by 12 News. We cannot comment on the specifics of this case due to confidentiality laws, said the spokesperson. DCS did provide a checklist of criteria it uses to determine whether the agency initiates an investigation. For DCS to file a report, a source must allege that the victim is younger than 18 years old, the victim lives or is present in Arizona, the victim has been physically, emotionally, or sexually abused, neglected, or abandoned, and the child and person suspected of abuse can be identified. But that's not it on news for the Doomsday Couple this week. Daybell trial pushed back, Lori Vallow still mentally unfit, judge finds. The trial for an Idaho husband and wife charged in the death of 2 children will be delayed once more, a judge ruled last Wednesday. Vallow, who allegedly told friends that her children had become zombies or inhibited with evil spirits, was ruled unfit to stand trial several months ago. Judge Stephen Boyce extended that designation Wednesday after receiving a report outlining the suspect's response to her mental health treatment. Based on the progress report the court has received and the information from the Department of Health and Welfare, the court does find and determine at this time that pursuant to Idaho Code 18-212, the defendant, Ms. Vallow, is not competent to proceed with the proceedings in this case. Vallow's case will essentially be on pause for an additional 180 days unless another progress report indicates earlier that her competency has been restored. Idaho does not have a so-called insanity defense. Someone ruled mentally unfit is typically held in jail, the state hospital, or an Idaho Department of Correction facility where they receive treatment for their mental health issues. If, over the course of that treatment, evaluators decide a suspect has regained competency, the case will move forward to trial. Daybell, who was originally set to go to trial on November 8th, will also have his case pushed back, the judge said. The defendant earlier waived his right to a speedy trial, and neither his lawyer nor the prosecution objected to more time before the trial begins. Boyce pointed to a multitude of motions filed in the case, saying he thought it would be impractical to proceed to trial in just 2 months. That's just the reality of where we are in this process, he said. I know there are a lot of discovery and probably significant motions that need to be heard. Okay, next up, Scott Peterson testimony excluded from Kristen Smart hearing, judge rules. Remember a few weeks ago when I told you about the lawyers for Paul Flores and his father Ruben Flores, who are accused in Kristen Smart's disappearance, trying to bring Scott Peterson into the mix and maybe introduce him as a possible suspect because Peterson went to Cal Poly with Kristen Smart at the time she disappeared? Well, that's not going to happen, probably. Defense witness testimony related to convicted murderer Scott Peterson and other alleged possible suspects will not be allowed at the preliminary hearing for the men accused in Kristen Smart's disappearance, a judge ruled on Thursday. But the ruling could change in about 2 weeks if defense attorneys are able to gather evidence that the testimony should be allowed, the same judge said at the end of Thursday's proceedings. Testimony resumed in the preliminary hearing for Paul Flores and his father Ruben Flores, who, as I said, are accused in Smart's disappearance. Paul Flores, now 44, is the last person known to have seen the 19-year-old freshman alive after walking her back from a party toward the Cal Poly campus residence halls on May 24, 1996. Kristen Smart's body has never been found, but investigators said in court documents filed in April that her remains were buried in Ruben Flores' Arroyo Grande home, but recently moved. Next up, Cosby survivor Andrea Constand says speaking out was worth it as she releases a new memoir. Bill Cosby survivor Andrea Constand has no regrets. Speaking to the New York Times, she opened up about the Pennsylvania Supreme Court's decision in late June to release Cosby from prison after overturning the disgraced comedian's sexual assault conviction, saying she would consider enduring a third criminal trial if asked by prosecutors. A first trial in 2017 was declared a mistrial. Yeah, I would do it over again, Constand, 48, said. If I had to do the right thing, I would do anything as long as it was for the right reason. Constand, who released a memoir, The Moment, Standing Up to Bill Cosby, Speaking Up for Women, on Tuesday, said she amended the book to reflect her disappointment with Cosby's release. As she watched media coverage of the decision, she caught footage of 84-year-old Cosby leaving prison. I had a lump in my throat, she told the Times. I really felt they were setting a predator on the loose, and that made me sick. Constand was among the first to accuse Cosby of sexual assault. She had only known Cosby for 2 years when in 2004, he drugged and then sexually assaulted her in his mansion in Elkins Park, Pennsylvania. At the time, she was an administrator with the Temple University women's basketball team and considered Cosby a mentor. She first notified authorities about the assault in 2005. It was her testimony during Cosby's 2018 trial that convinced jurors to convict the comedian on 3 counts of aggravated indecent assault. 5 other women also testified at the trial, making similar allegations against Cosby, allegations his defense team denied. More than 60 women have come forward with claims of misconduct against Cosby, who was sentenced to serve 3 to 10 years in prison. The High Court cited a procedural issue in its decision to vacate Cosby's conviction, claiming prosecutors had violated the defendant's due process rights after he was promised years before that he'd never have to face trial. In its decision, the court barred anyone from prosecuting Cosby again on the allegations, a decision prosecutors have appealed. Cosby ended up serving nearly 3 years in prison. ABC News reports that 2 lower courts refused to overturn Cosby's conviction before the state Supreme Court agreed to hear his case. Constan also spoke to Today in an exclusive interview, saying she felt vindicated by the verdict, knowing the jury believed her testimony. I have come way too far to go back to that place to wonder whether it's all worth it or to have regrets. It was worth it. It was worth it. All the pain, all the heartache, all the reputational damage, not only for me but for my family. But it was worth it because I didn't feel alone. I had a whole community, a whole army of women and other survivors, strangers, family, friends, who were right there with me. In her new memoir, she delves deeper into the emotional and spiritual journey to recover following her sexual assault, and explains how sharing her story publicly helped her heal. A portion of the book sales will go toward Constance's foundation, Hope, Healing, and Transformation, which aims to empower survivors of sexual assault. If you or someone you know has been sexually assaulted, please contact the National Sexual Assault Hotline at 1-800-656-HOPE. That's 1-800-656-4673, or go to rainn.org. That's RAINN.org. Okay, so we're back, and this is sort of a weird story. I'm just gonna get into it. Prominent lawyer shot and hurt months after wife, son slain. This is a strange one, and I feel like there's something fishy afoot here. And just listen to what I have to say and then come to your own conclusions. A lawyer from a prominent South Carolina legal family who found his wife and son shot to death at their home 3 months ago was shot in the head and wounded Saturday after he had car trouble on a lonely rural road, a family attorney said. Alex Murdaugh was heading to Charleston when his car had stopped on Salkehatchie Road in Hampton County, his lawyer Jim Griffin told the state newspaper. A truck passed Murdaugh on the road before turning around, and then someone in the vehicle shot him. The lawyer said he received that information from Murdaugh's brother, Randy. Murdaugh was airlifted to the Medical University of South Carolina Hospital in Charleston, said Griffin, who didn't know how many times he had been shot. The State Law Enforcement Division, South Carolina's top law enforcement agency, confirmed the shooting Saturday but released no further details. Local deputies referred questions to the state police. The Murdaugh family has suffered through more than any one family can ever imagine, said a statement released by Murdaugh relatives Saturday evening. We expect Alex to recover and ask for your privacy while he recovers. Murdaugh, 53, found his wife and son shot to death at their Colleton County home on June 7th. No arrests have been made, and the state police have released little information, even going to court to fight public records requests. Maggie Murdaugh, 52, and her 22-year-old son Paul were both shot several times and found outside the house near dog kennels, authorities said. Alex Murdaugh said on a 911 call that he had just returned home and in a later TV interview said he was out checking on his terminally ill father when his wife and son were killed. The Murdaughs are one of South Carolina's most prominent legal families. Alex Murdaugh was a volunteer prosecutor in the same office where his father, grandfather, and great-grandfather spent more than 80 years combined as the area's top prosecutors. Other members of the family are prominent civil attorneys. When Paul Murdaugh was killed, he was awaiting trial for boating under the influence in a February 2019 crash that killed a 19-year-old woman. State police have since started looking into the investigation into the crash to see if anyone tried to keep police from charging Paul Murdaugh. After the Murdaugh's deaths, state police also reopened an investigation into a 2015 hit-and-run death of a 19-year-old man in Hampton County. The victim's mother said she thought Paul Murdaugh could have been involved. Authorities haven't released any information about why those cases are reopened. But here, I have more on the situation. Alex Murdaugh, accused of misappropriating money from the law firm, forced to resign before the shooting. South Carolina attorney Alex Murdaugh is now being accused of misappropriating money from his law firm, leading to his resignation just one day before he was shot. On Friday, members of the Hampton law firm PMPED confronted Murdaugh, 53, about missing money before notifying law enforcement and the South Carolina Bar Association. A source told the outlet on Monday night that over $1 million was missing, and after being confronted, Murdaugh told his lawyer he would be resigning. This is disappointing news for all of us, PMPED said in a statement obtained by the Island Packet, noting that the firm had cut all ties with Murdaugh. Rest assured that our firm will deal with this in a straightforward manner. There's no place in our firm for such behavior. Murdaugh's attorney, Jim Griffin, told People in a statement that Alex resigned from the firm after being accused of diverting lawyer fees. These allegations prompted him to confront his dependency, and he voluntarily checked into an inpatient substance abuse rehab facility after being discharged from the hospital on Monday. Following Saturday's shooting, members of the law firm went to the scene to report details of the missing money to authorities, who have not commented about whether the situations are linked, according to the Island Packet. Murdaugh's shooting came less than 3 months after his wife, Maggie, and son Paul were murdered on the grounds of the family's 1,770-acre hunting lodge. Authorities have not identified a motive or a suspect in the killings of Maggie and Paul, but their deaths shone a spotlight on a string of mysterious deaths surrounding the family. At the time of his death, as I said, Paul was facing charges in the death of a woman in a boating accident. Despite the new allegations of misappropriated money, Murdaugh's lawyers said in an earlier statement on Sunday that his resignation from the family law firm was centered in his desire to focus on recovering from the deaths of his wife and son. The murders of my wife and son have caused an incredibly difficult time in my life, he said in a statement, which was obtained by the Island Packet. I have made a lot of decisions that I truly regret. I'm resigning from my law firm and entering rehab after a long battle that has been exuberated by these murders. And for the most up-to-date information I have on this case, here is a clip from Good Morning America.
Prominent South Carolina lawyer Alex Murdaugh now suspended from practicing law. This after checking into rehab in the wake of the unsolved murders of his wife and son. Eva Pilgrim joins us with the latest. Good morning, Eva.
Good morning, Robin. There's been a lot of mystery and intrigue surrounding this family just because of who they are. But this was something no one, not even Alex Murdaugh's own family, say they saw coming.
This morning, in a spectacular fall, Alex Murdaugh, once a celebrated lawyer from one of the most prominent legal families in South Carolina, now indefinitely suspended from practicing law. The South Carolina Supreme Court suspending his license due to accusations of misappropriating funds from the law firm his family helped build for decades. Murdaugh's family has been the focus of national attention since the brutal unsolved murders of his wife Maggie and 22-year-old son Paul this past June.
Are they breathing?
No, ma'am. My wife and my son.
And what is your name?
My name is Alex Murdaugh. Please hurry. Neither one of them is moving.
Murdaugh calling 911 after finding their bodies, both shot multiple times near the family's hunting lodge. His brother speaking to us at the time, asking for the public's help.
It's just hard to imagine somebody could be so sick as to do this, intentionally kill people like that.
On Friday, the law firm where he works announced it had reported to law enforcement and the state bar that he had stolen money from the firm. His older brother, Randy, who still works at the firm, releasing this statement. I was shocked to learn of my brother's drug addiction and stealing of money. I love my law firm family and also love Alec as my brother. While I will support him in his recovery, I do not support, condone, or excuse his conduct in stealing by manipulating his most trusted relationships. Saturday, just one day after resigning from the firm, Murdaugh called 911 shortly after 1:30 in the afternoon to report that he'd been shot. Murdaugh's lawyer telling the New York Times he was fixing a flat tire on the side of a rural road when a car drove past him, then came back to ask if he was having car trouble before someone shot him. He was airlifted to a hospital in Savannah, Georgia, with what authorities say was a superficial gunshot wound to the head.
And Monday, Murdaugh released a statement before checking himself into rehab saying that he'd, quote, made a lot of decisions he regretted, apologizing to everyone he hurt, including his family, friends, and colleagues. Guys.
Even like we said, you've been on the story from the very beginning, and it's just a real head-scratcher in so many ways.
There's a lot we still don't know, a lot of questions that are still unanswered, Robin.
That's true.
And like I said, a lot of unanswered questions, and something fishy is definitely afoot with this. So I'm going to be following it. Hopefully I'll have some updates for you next week. Next up, what the heck is going on in Chicago? It was a pretty bloody holiday weekend in Chicago. 4-year-old among 5 fatal Chicago weekend shootings, 53 hurt. A 4-year-old boy from Alabama who died Sunday after he was struck by stray gunfire inside a West Side Chicago home was one of 5 people killed by gun violence in the city during the Labor Day holiday. Another 53 people were wounded during the weekend, including another 7 children aged 17 and younger. The Polk County Medical Examiner's Office said 4-year-old Michael Moultrie died Sunday night at Comer's Children's Hospital, the Chicago Sun-Times reported. Police Superintendent David Brown pleaded with residents Monday to assist law enforcement officials after the bloody weekend. This is beyond trusting the police. This is about the safety of our babies, he said. A family friend was braiding Michael Moultrie's hair in her home when he was struck twice in the head by rounds that tore through the front window about 9 p.m. Friday, police said. No arrests have been made. The boy's mother, Angela Gregg, told the Chicago Tribune on Monday that she had no idea about the motive, but we just know our baby is not supposed to lose his life at 4 years old, and somebody needs to step up and say something. The police don't know anything yet because no one is talking, no one is coming forward, she said. People aren't answering their doors, and the people that are answering their doors are saying they don't know anything. Somebody in Chicago knows something. Michael, who arrived in Chicago with his mother earlier Friday from their home in Decatur, Alabama, is the second 4-year-old to die as a result of gunfire in Chicago this year. He's the second 4-year-old shot within a week. Greg said she was not with the boy during the incident. The boy's father was nearby and held his son until paramedics arrived, according to a community activist. Mayor Lori Lightfoot expressed frustration that often people in the neighborhoods where incidents occur know the people involved but are reluctant to cooperate. I understand the fear that's out there, but I'm just calling upon people in these neighborhoods. You've got to have your faith overcome your fear. You've got to step up. 7 other juveniles were shot between Friday evening and Monday morning. They include a 12-year-old boy, a 15-year-old girl shot near a back-to-school event on Saturday, a 13-year-old boy hanging out in a basement with friends on Saturday night when someone fired through the window, and a 14-year-old boy shot walking to a car with his father on Sunday morning. The other 3 victims were boys aged 15, 16, and 17. On that same note, from Fox News, more kids shot in Chicago than have died from COVID-19 across the U.S. this year. More minors have been shot in Chicago than have died of COVID-19 over the course of 2021 so far, according to data from police and the Center for Disease Control and Prevention. A total of 214 U.S. children 17 years or younger have died of COVID-19 in 2021. That's in the entire country. While cases among children increased significantly between August and September, minor COVID-19 deaths make up approximately 0.27% of all COVID-19 deaths among the states, including 7 states that reported 0 deaths among children, according to the CDC and the American Academy of Pediatrics. Comparatively, Chicago police told Fox 32 Chicago earlier this week that 261 children have been shot in the city so far in 2021, 41 of whom have died. So, more children have been fatally shot in Chicago alone than have died of COVID-19 in the entire state of Illinois. Chicago, we have a problem. Okay, so I have been following this case since last week, and it's honestly been sort of confusing, so I've been waiting for more details before reporting it, but good old Sheriff Grady Judd of Polk County helped me out with this one with an article in the Lakeland Ledger that pretty much sums up everything. This is going to be a long one. Polk County Sheriff lays out details in gunman's attack on North Lakeland family. Another, quote, Polk County massacre. For those of you who listen to our other show, Paradise After Dark, we did an episode on the other massacre that happened almost exactly a year ago. Polk County Sheriff Grady Judd said a gunman planned the Sunday morning attack on a family in North Lakeland like a carefully choreographed military operation, even arriving in the neighborhood hours ahead of time to perform reconnaissance. In what the sheriff's office said would be its final update on the quadruple homicide on North Socrum Loop Road, Grady Judd laid out how authorities believe Brian Riley, 33, wound up in the neighborhood, how he first came in contact with the family, and how he prepared to, quote, kill everyone, after being rebuffed Saturday night in his bid to speak to a girl named Amber. The sheriff's office said Riley of Brandon, Florida, killed Justice Gleason, 40, Teresa Lanham, 33, and their 3-month-old baby boy in their home on North Socrum Loop Road about 4:30 a.m. Sunday. He also severely wounded an 11-year-old girl and also killed Lanham's mother, 62-year-old Kathy Delgado, in another home on the same property. Judd said a man who lives in the area told sheriff's detectives that Riley had come to his residence Saturday evening to pick up first aid supplies that he intended to take to Louisiana for hurricane relief. He left here about 7:10 p.m., just after 7:10, understanding what we got the call of a suspicious person and vehicle at 7:22. Sometime in that period, that's when Riley stopped out front and talked to Justice Gleason, who was mowing his yard, one of the homicide victims. Judd said Riley stopped at Gleason's home, approached him, and said that he was sent there by God to talk to somebody named Amber because she was going to commit suicide. Gleason told him there was no one there named Amber, but Judd said Riley refused to leave. Delgado then came out of the house and told Riley to leave or they'd call the police. The family called law enforcement and Riley drove off. When our suspect Riley left, he was very angry, Sheriff Judd said. And he was very angry at Justice because he thought Justice had kept him from seeing this child, Amber, that was going to commit suicide. Riley didn't make any threats to the family at all when he talked to them Saturday. He told sheriff's officials that's when God told him to kill everyone and save Amber because she's a victim of sex trafficking. He said Riley then went home and put an operational plan together. In his confession, he says, "You know what that means. It means you have to kill everyone," Judd said. Materializing a plan. Back in Brandon, Judd said Riley got into a fight with his partner of 4 years because she told him that God does not speak to him. According to Judd, Riley accused his romantic partner of being a non-believer but never mentioned violence. Judd said that Riley was gone when his partner woke up at 6:30 a.m. on Sunday. We have found a piece of video where at 1 o'clock in the morning, he left his residence in that truck that we found at the scene carrying a large shoulder bag. So we wondered, where has he been between 1 in the morning and 4:22 in the morning? Judd said Riley told officials that he went back to North Sockram Loop Road and did reconnaissance outside the house in the moonlight. Judd said the terminology Riley used while talking to officials about the incident is from his training. That was the beginning of his execution plan. Riley told officials that he repositioned his truck 3 times to make sure that he'd have a fast exit. He said Riley spent time at the house looking for 3 entrances into the home. He slashed the tires on both a sedan and the pickup truck he ultimately set on fire. Officials said Riley told them he set the truck on fire as a diversion and that the car wouldn't catch fire, but the mission was underway and he had to push through. Judd also said Riley laid glow sticks out from the road next to his vehicle and through the backyard of the victim's home. He explained that those were so he could find his way out in an emergency at night. And so, if he found Amber, who is obviously a fictitious person that doesn't exist, she could find her way to escape from this house where she was a sex crime victim. Riley made it all up and that there were no victims of sex trafficking in the home. The murder suspect took his breaching tools to the back of Delgado's home where they were unsuccessful on her door. So he left that door after shooting through the door and went around to the south side of the apartment. He then shot through the window and he entered. Riley then killed Delgado in her home. He told officials he cleared the house. He was clearing the house and looking for Amber. He said, "I dumped a mag," and what he meant is he shot a whole magazine toward the victim. Judd said Riley told officials that he then had to reset and start his methodical search for Amber in the main house. "I knew that they were now aware that I was there." He entered the main house by shooting out or breaking out the back glass door. He said, "I know I made a lot of noise, so I had to push through. I know that they were now aware that I was there." Riley referred to the hallway of the home as a fatal funnel, Judd said. Riley told detectives he went into the bedroom and shot the dog twice. Polk County Sheriff's Office told the Ledger that the 2 other dogs are missing from the property, including Ambrosia, a small Chihuahua-looking dog. Judd said Riley told officials that he then shot through the bathroom door and tried to push into the bathroom, but the family was pushing back. According to Judd, Riley continued shooting through the door until he could go into the bathroom. Once he got in there, he shot and killed Gleason, who was pushing against the door trying to keep him out. Once Riley forced his way into the bathroom where the family was hiding and killed Gleason, he then shot Lanham and the 3-month-old baby in her arms. That's when he grabbed the 11-year-old victim, took her from the bathroom into the living room, and asked her, "Where's Amber?" She says, "I'm not Amber. There is no Amber." Riley then counted down from 3 and shot her in the thigh area. He said Riley asked her again, then shot her again. According to Grady Judd, Riley told officials that he tortured the 11-year-old to find Amber. Judd said Riley told the 11-year-old that he killed her parents because they're sex traffickers. He said, "Next, I shot her in the legs, and when she wouldn't tell me where Amber was, I eliminated her." He thought he killed her, but this 11-year-old was very brave and very smart, and she outthought him. The 11-year-old told officials she played dead and prayed. The crime scene where the 4 were killed is the most extensive crime scene the sheriff's office has worked that Grady Judd can remember. There was a shootout with law enforcement. Law enforcement was soon on the scene, and it didn't take long for 2 separate shootouts to occur. The first occurred as a sheriff's lieutenant tried to enter through the rear. He exchanged fire with Riley and retreated. Shortly after, Judd said Riley fired on law enforcement in the front yard, and they returned fire. Officials said 5 deputies and 1 Lakeland police officer shot at Riley about 59 times. So far, they found that Riley shot more than 100 times throughout the time he was on the property, but they're still investigating that. Judd said he thinks Riley was shot by one of the deputies in the stomach. It was a side-to-side wound. It actually went through the vest he was wearing, but it did not enter the cavity. It just went through the exterior portion of his stomach and through the fat area. Riley retreated to the baby's nursery, Judd said, and put material on his gun wound to stop the bleeding. Riley said he was outgunned and outmanned, so he walked out of the house, surrendering with his hands up. He was a coward, an absolute coward, Sheriff Grady Judd said. He looks like a man, but he's not a man. He's a sniveling coward. Riley is facing 4 first-degree murder charges, 2 armed burglary with assault charges, 7 counts of attempted first-degree murder of law enforcement officers, 1 second-degree arson charge, an attempted first-degree murder with a weapon charge, an attempted kidnapping charge, and 2 charges of shooting into a building. Riley is currently being housed in isolation at the maximum security section of the South County Jail. Sheriff Grady Judd said the sheriff's office has recovered 5 guns from the property, and Riley has not shown any remorse regarding the incident. They happen to be the unfortunate ones that he passed by that afternoon, where he saw the man and the 11-year-old girl, Judd said. He could have been in anybody's neighborhood that was out there with their children that afternoon. Sheriff Grady Judd also gave an update Thursday on how people can help and give to the family. Quite frankly, this family needs some help, Judd said. We've got an 11-year-old that's at Tampa General, so we have hospital bills, and everything that's related to that, as well as funeral bills, as well as 2 homes that have been destroyed. Judd said there are 4 GoFundMe sites set up, one of which he said is suspicious, so be careful. GoFundMe is a business, so they have to have a percentage of the money in order to operate. If a lot of people will donate a little money, they'll send it to Polk Sheriff's Charities. 100% of that donation will go to the family. People looking to donate can go to www.polksheriff.org/about/Polk's Sheriff's Charities and click to donate. There, they'll find a drop-down menu to specify donations should go to the quadruple homicide. Whoa. That is a crazy, crazy story, and honestly, my mouth is starting to hurt just from reading all that. I think that we could even probably do an entire episode on that on our other show, Paradise After Dark. But anyway, that's going to be it for week 36 of 2021. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for listening. And again, if you'd like to support the show, please subscribe to our Patreon at patreon.com/Palmhawk Media. And I will talk at you next week with more true crime headlines.
Okay, first of all, I met Scott Peterson November 20th, 2002.
Directly to the killer who may be in this room.
I'm going to turn now to that new charge for the so-called doomsday mom, Lori Vallow, already charged in the killing of her 2 children. She is now being indicted for conspiracy to commit murder.
A violation of Penal Code Section 187 Prene, murder in the first degree. How do you plead?
Guilty.